Okay, I want you to imagine something for a second. What if your absolute worst luck, those moments where literally everything seems to be going completely wrong, was actually your greatest blessing in disguise? What if your biggest, most painful setbacks were actually the crucial turning points of your entire life? Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're going to radically challenge how you view bad luck.
So, let's dive right in. Today we're unpacking a really fascinating biographical essay by an author named Su Feng. It's called Misfortune is the Starting Point of Turning Points on the Journey of Life. And honestly, it offers a totally radical reframing of adversity. It's a deeply personal account, and we're going to map out exactly how he flips the whole concept of misfortune completely on its head.
Here's our roadmap for this explainer. First, the philosophy of misfortune. Then, early life and near misses. Third, failing upwards in career. Fourth, exile and new beginnings. And finally, embracing the silver lining.
All right, Section 1, the philosophy of misfortune, or reframing the bad.
To really understand this author's claims, we kind of have to adopt a lens of radical perspective shifting. His central thesis is captured perfectly right here. Good fortune lies within bad, and bad fortune lurks within good. Basically, he approaches his entire life through this lens. He's arguing that events aren't strictly positive or negative. They actually contain the hidden seeds of their exact opposite.
And in his writings, Su Feng positions himself as a guide in Life Chanyuan, which is the spiritual community he founded. He makes it clear he's sharing his real experiences without any hypocrisy, pretense, or hidden schemes. He openly acknowledges he isn't flawless, but he offers his personal journey as a transparent reference point for the rest of us trying to navigate life's inevitable curveballs.
Moving on to Section 2, Early Life and Near Misses. Starvation and Reckless Driving. Let's put this philosophy to the test in the real world, starting with extreme physical survival. During the years of hunger in 1958 and 1960 in China, Su Feng recounts that he almost starved to death. I mean, that is undeniably a profound misfortune. But because of that near starvation, he claims that every single meal he eats for the rest of his life is intensely delicious. Whether it's sour northern dishes, spicy central food, sweet southern cuisine, Chinese, Western, African, he finds immense joy in it. His belief is simply that having enough food to fill your stomach is true happiness. That extreme misfortune literally created a lifetime of deep, everyday gratitude.
Here's another wild near miss, this one from 1980. Picture this. Su Feng was at a technical school learning car mechanics. One day, the master lets his two apprentices take Su Feng to the playground to practice driving. But the younger apprentice recklessly grabs the steering wheel and hogs the driver's seat the entire time, totally denying Su Feng his turn. At the time, obviously, that felt incredibly unfair. But it was actually a hidden blessing. Other students had wandered onto the playground for a PE class, and that younger apprentice was driving erratically. Su Feng notes that if he had been at the wheel instead, he might have panicked and hit his classmates. So the bad luck of being skipped over literally saved him from causing a massive disaster.
Okay, Section 3, failing upwards in career, dodging the corruption trap.
Now, professionally, Su Feng seemed destined for bureaucratic leadership. Look at this rapid succession. In 1980, he's a technical school class monitor. By 1984, director of the third echelon in a geological team. 1988, principal of a school. 1992, director of a prospecting machinery factory. But here's the twist. He enthusiastically admits that he messed up all of these official positions because he simply didn't take them seriously. He utterly failed at being a bureaucrat.
So, a completely failed bureaucratic career, right? But what's his assessment of that reality? Well, Su Feng recalls his wife predicting back in 1993 that if he had stayed on that path, he would have eventually become the governor of Gansu province. But, and this is crucial, he believes there was a 90% chance he would have become a corrupt official, ended up in prison, and gone down in history with an infamous reputation. So failing early and often in the bureaucracy prevented his total moral and legal ruin.
Which brings us to a highly specific turning point in 1994, centered around exactly 200 kilometers.
At the time, Su Feng was working abroad as a translator when an official's vehicle broke down. Because he was the only translator, he was forced to drive the broken car 200 kilometers to a repair shop, which quoted a 3-day fix. When he got back to base without the car, his superior irrationally insulted him, demanding the car be fixed that exact same day. He was insulted, so you know what he did? He quit on the spot. A terrible day at work, sure, but that completely unfair insult pushed him to leave the system entirely.
He started his own business, found entrepreneurial freedom, and at a time when private ownership was super rare in China, he earned a spacious villa with a pool and multiple cars. That insult was the direct catalyst for his financial freedom.
Shifting gears into Section 4, Exile and New Beginnings. Finding new ground.
Now, the events in his life become a lot more spiritually charged here. Over 20 years ago, Shufeng experienced a severe, tragic car accident. But instead of viewing it as a tragedy, he frames it as a major turning point. The source notes he claims this specific accident completely changed his life's trajectory, leading him onto what he describes as the way of the greatest creator and finding the way to heaven. The physical trauma was, in his eyes, the gateway to a massive spiritual awakening.
Later on, Shufeng founded the spiritual community Life Chan Yuan. The source text details that he faced suppression from the Chinese government, resulting in the destruction of over 10 of these communities in China. Again, a massive misfortune. But look at the juxtaposition he presents. He states that this very suppression is what pushed him to relocate to Canada, and as a result, he now lives on a 40,000 square meter private estate featuring a mansion with 10 bathrooms and 6 showers, enjoying what he calls a peaceful, harmonious, and secure heavenly life.
The source material also points out that the Chinese government released a video labeling his community an evil community. How do you process that level of public condemnation? Well, Sui Feng's reaction was to literally just laugh it off. He felt delighted. He reframed it by believing that darkness cursing the light only proves his movement's validity, and that this governmental label will actually make Life Chanyon's historical status shine even more brilliantly for future generations.
Finally, Section 5, Embracing the Silver Lining, the Methodology of Resilience.
Let's ground this with a striking physical example of his mindset. One eye. Shui Feng literally lost his sight in one eye. While everyone around him worried and panicked on his behalf, he cheerfully declared that from now on he could see everything clearly with just one eye. He radicalized his acceptance to the point where he didn't even care if losing his eye was a good thing or a bad thing. He just accepted it exactly as it was.
So what is the practical playbook for us when misfortune strikes? Shufeng lays out a specific methodology. Step 1, remain calm. Step 2, do not panic, do not go mad, do not complain, and definitely do not get angry. Step 3, await the day the clouds disperse and flowers bloom. It is an exercise in profound patience and radical acceptance, trusting completely that the turning point is already in motion behind the scenes.
And this brilliantly illustrates his ultimate conclusion. When numerous unfortunate events occur, congratulations, the gates of heaven have already opened for you. He completely inverts the typical human reaction to bad luck. Instead of despair, he argues we should actually feel a sense of congratulatory anticipation for what comes next. Which brings us to the end of our explainer, and I want to leave you with a final question. Think of a recent setback in your own life right now. Can you spot the hidden turning point? If you apply this framework, how does your absolute worst luck transform into your greatest opportunity? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I highly encourage you to reevaluate those misfortunes. You never know what silver lining is waiting for you.